All will be revealed. Welcome. It's 12/21/12, everybody. This is Kathy from Truth Connections Radio, and I am very pleased to be with you for this End of Mind calendar marathon at Wolf Spirit Radio on the winter solstice as well. It's great to see the chat room so alive with love, hope, and solidarity. And when Andrew and Dave asked me to take part in this event, it didn't really take me long to decide who I wanted to accompany me today. Santos bonacci is one who is very relevant right now for his teachings, and that is exactly what he does so graciously on a regular basis. He's an expert in astrotheology, philosophy, religion, astrology, linguistics, and many, many more topics. He was also just featured in the new film about consciousness called Crossing Over, A New Beginning by Brave New Archer Films. Santo has an innate gift in tying together many cultures and writings, proving that what is above is also below, and that everything is truly connected. He is here to discuss consciousness and the galactic alignment and many other topics, and I am honored to be here with him on this glorious day. Welcome, Santos.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you.
You're very welcome. It's great to have you here. I think you are the perfect guest for this day.
Thank you.
A lot of your work is so truly connected to this day and this event. How would you like to begin? You want to talk to everyone about the galactic alignment, what it actually means to us?
Yeah, for sure. What a great place to start. It's really the birthday of the universe today. Not only just the solstice. The solstice is the shortest day of the year in the northern hemisphere, and so the sun has reached its shortest point. It's the shortest, and so therefore it's diminished. And then what happens is there's 3 days of stopping on the horizon. So if you watch the sun on the horizon, you will notice that it stands dead still on the horizon for 3 days. It's an amazing phenomenon which occurs between the 21st of December every year, and then on the 24th, 3 days later, on Christmas Eve, it begins its journey back up to the Tropic of Cancer for the longest day of the year. So those 3 days, 72 hours, those are when the sun is considered dead. And it's phenomenal when you watch. If you're a real sun gazer like me, you will notice this. And it's phenomenal because every day, if you watch the sun setting, you can see it moving just that little bit on the horizon. You can just see it moving. It just nudges. It inches itself forward bit by bit. But then when it reaches the 21st of December, it just stands still. Now, what's so amazing about today is that many, many other cycles have lined up. It's the 0 point. So you could say that in our little solar system, it's the 0 point of the year. So there's one very, very small cycle. But when you expand that and you go out to, the whole solar system, then the whole galaxy, and then the whole universe, you find that many other bigger cycles are also zeroing in on that particular in their cycles. Now I'll explain that as I go. First of all, it's the end of the precessional cycle. 25,920 years whereby the sun has spent a little over 2,000 years in every sign of the zodiac. Now we know we've been in the age of Pisces. We know that because, well, we say it. And then of course, 40 or 50 years ago, in our culture and in songs, we've been singing about the dawning of the age of Aquarius, right? So we've all been conscious that Aquarius has been coming. Well, there's been a little confusion as to when Aquarius would start. Many occultists have said that it started in 1881. Then you have some that say that it started in the early 1900s. Some have said that it started in the 1960s. Others are still saying that it still hasn't started. And it's hundreds of years away, the age of Aquarius. Well, it started today. And the cusp of Pisces and Aquarius lasted 50 years, as all cusps do. And Aquarius began in full in the year 1962. And 50 years later, here we are, 2012, at the solstice, Pisces ends and Aquarius begins. Now, there may be people that won't agree with that, but there are many who do, and many who know that this is true. So we'll leave that at that. And but the point is, the sun appears to go through these signs backwards. That's why it's called precession. Precession of the equinoxes, because the equinoctial point precesses, it goes backwards. And backwards to what, you might ask? Well, backwards to the normal forward flow of the stars and the orbs in the sky. See, daily and yearly, the sun goes, or the stars appear to go east to west. Now you can watch this. Everything goes east to west. The sun, the moon, all of the visible planets, all of the stars. If you face the east, every night you can see the suns moving slowly. They move 1 degree every 4 minutes. So all you've got to do is spend 4 minutes watching the stars, and you'll see them move 1 degree in the skies. And they all flow. There's a constant flow in the skies, and it goes east to west constantly. So, for instance, if you've got your eye on a star, let's say Aldebaran, the red star, the eye of the bull, and so you're watching it. 4 minutes later, it's moved 1 degree. 8 minutes, 2 degrees. So it will move 30 degrees every 2 hours. And this is what we call right ascension. So 2 hours of right ascension is 30 degrees. So we're accustomed to this, and every year we also notice that the stars move in the same direction, east to west. So daily and yearly we have this east to west flow of the stars. But if we could live for 26,000 years, we would notice that those very same stars go backwards 1 degree every 72 years. Now, 72 years is an interesting number. It's the number, it's the average, well, it's average, it's room temperature, it's average blood pressure, it's the average lifespan of the human being. There are many, many, many things that occur with that number 72, right? It's also a biblical number. Jesus sent in Luke chapter, I think it's 10 verse 1, Jesus sent his 72 out to preach. Moses and his brother Aaron had 70 wise men. The 72 men of the Sanhedrin that, in the Bible. There's always this 72. Now, that's because it's a processional number. So it's not like, it's a new science that we've just discovered and we're talking about precession now. No. The ancients knew about precession. In fact, precession was the most important thing that astrologers would learn and monitor. In fact, the Great Pyramid in Egypt is built around precessional numbers. 72 is everywhere. 25,920, which is the figure for precession, is built into the pyramids. You'll find it at Stonehenge. You'll find it in every megalithic monument ever constructed.
Not a mistake.
And this, Yeah, and this is what we're celebrating today, Catherine. We're celebrating the finishing line, and the finishing line is where Pisces ends and Aquarius begins. And there's a reason for that, which I can explain if you'd like.
Go right ahead.
Okay. Why is that the finishing line? Well, first of all, let's look at the word, the expression precession of the equinoxes. It's not the precession of the solstices, it's the precession of the equinoxes. Well, why would that be? Why do we not include the solstices? Well, we do. The solstices are included in it, but we call it precession of the equinoxes because astrologers have always known that the first degrees of Aries are where right ascension begins. It's pretty much like Greenwich Mean Time in the skies. So when you look at your clock or your watch, you are in a time zone that is established by Greenwich in London. And that is the point where 12 o'clock at midnight begins every day. Before that, it was in Paris, and before that, guess where it was? The Great Pyramid of Egypt. And it still is, by the way. I mean, true occultists do not acknowledge Greenwich or Paris or any other meridian. The prime meridian is, always was, and always will be the Great Pyramid. Now, for some reason, which I don't know, I can't explain why, but one day we will know why that was chosen. But that is the meridian. Now,
I like how they explained the awakening in the movie as well, just not to divert too much, about how everything is cyclical and with an ascending and descending. It sort of plays into what you're talking about now with the Golden Age and the Silver Age and the Bronze Age and the Iron Age. Say how consciousness is constantly going through a series of stages, expanding and contracting, great ages, and then a little more harder ages to go to, and that's how it is. It's just a cyclical process. It goes up and down like a sine wave.
Exactly, and you will notice all you have to do is pick any cycle. If we pick, for instance, the day, we can see clearly that it is made up of. It consists of a portion of light, depending where you are living in latitude on the globe. If you're living at the North Pole, you can have 24 hours of light. In Norway, you can have like 20 hours of light, and the night lasts for 4 hours. But if you live in Ecuador, for instance, on the equator, you will have exact 12 hours a day and 12 hours of night. So here we go. We can see that we have light, which we would call great because we can build houses, we can go shopping, we can see where other people are so we don't bump into them. And then we have night. Whoops, the wolves come out and howl, and we're scared, and it's cold, and we're bumping into things, and we break our bones and fall over everywhere. So we would call the light good, and we would designate the night bad. Well,
right.
What happens in the yearly cycle where we see summer? Everybody loves spring and summer, I mean, wow, it's energetic, the blossom in spring, and then we get the harvest that we can eat all the fruits in summer, and we see with photosynthesis everything grows, and we would call that good. And then the winter comes, and damn it, if we're not freezing in our homes and there's snow all over, you can't open the door because there's snow, and you've got to have some bread in that pantry. Because if not, you die. And in the past, more people have died in the winter than they die in the summer because of these conditions, these terrible cold conditions that are very, very harsh on the human organism. And the same thing happens with precession. Just like you said, from the movie Awakening. Yes, it's all cyclical. So now, what we're coming into is like a mini golden age, if you like, as we traverse and transit the sign of Aquarius. And we can go into that in a minute. But going back to the precession of the equinoxes, why do we call it that? Because astrologers have always picked the 21st of March, 0 degrees of Aries, as the beginning point for the year. In fact, all calendars before the Romans conquered the world began on the 21st of March. England succumbed to the Roman calendar in the year 1784. You can check this out on Wikipedia. But until the Romans, the calendar system was adopted by the English, the year began at the equinox. In fact, on the 25th of March was New Year's Day for forever, till only a couple of hundred years ago, till they succumbed to the Roman calendar, where we celebrate January 1st as the head of the year. But all ancient cultures recognized the 21st of March, and then they waited for those 3 days, remember, and then the 25th of March, just like the 21st of December and the 25th of December. It's the same thing. The equinoxes do the same thing as the solstices. But astrologers knew that the sign that rose behind the sun at 6 a.m. on March the 21st was the sign that we are transiting. So the equinox determined the age we lived in. Now,
right.
Now, so when you look at it like that, you will immediately realize that if the spring equinox was in Pisces for 2,000 years, well then the autumnal equinox must have been in Virgo, the opposite sign. And therefore, the solstice, the summer solstice of June the 21st, was in Gemini, and its opposite, which is today, the 21st of December, was in Sagittarius. So those 4 signs are all mutable signs. So the cardinal cross in the sky has been transiting the mutable signs for 2,000 years. Now on March the 21st, when you go out at 6 a.m., you will see the head of Aquarius popping up behind the sun. So we know now that we are in the age of Aquarius and will be for 2,000 years. Now, opposite Aquarius is Leo. Yeah, and that will be the autumnal equinox. So these are 2 signs. And the solstices are now transiting Taurus and Scorpio.
All fixed signs. I wonder why they're all fixed signs, Santos.
Exactly. And these are the fixed signs. This is the fixed cross that we will be in for 2,000 years. Fixability. So we are going to be in the pure essence of the air of Aquarius. Now, the motto of Aquarius is I know. The motto of Pisces was I believe, I doubt. One of the fishes, the first 1,000 years of Pisces, is the first fish, which is closer to Aries, and that fish says I doubt. The second fish says I believe, and then that fish hands over to Aquarius, and we all say, yeah, on Earth, in unison, in chorus, I know. So we are entering the age of knowing, rather than doubting and believing. You know, when you go to church, half of the churchgoers, I doubt, I've got some doubts, my faith is weak, I doubt. And then the other brothers, the other half of the congregation, I believe in Jesus, you know. So you've got doubters and believers. Well, that's finished. You see, those 2 fish who are when you look up to Pisces and you work out the configuration of the constellation of Pisces, you will see clearly that it is in the sign of a cross, and one fish is pointing one way and is wanting to go down into the water. That's the doubting fish. And the other one is wanting to go up, you see, and that's the believing fish. And this has caused division on the earth. These two fish have been going in separate directions. And you see, the powers that be have taken advantage of this mutable water sign,
Yes,
baptizing us in water. Well, humans, you know, try diving down deep into the water and staying there for a couple of hours and see what happens to you. You drown. But what happens when you walk around in the air? And you've got to look at it this way too, Catherine. You've got to look at it this way. When you're in your mother's womb, you are in your mother's waters.
Good
The
point.
moment you come out of your mother's womb and they spank you on the bottom, what do? You breathe air. See, this is what's going to happen, and this is what is happening to us right now as we speak. Look at Pisces and put the word Veshika in front of the word Pisces, and Veshika is the womb. And look at the glyph for Pisces and play around with that glyph, and you'll see that it resembles the Veshika Pisces, which is the womb. What's happened is we've been in the womb of Pisces. And now we are getting waters, spiritual waters of consciousness poured down onto us like never before. You see, when we enter the air signs, Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, we enter what's called the humane signs. These are humane because there's no animals in those signs. Gemini is two twins, Libra is the scales and the man holding up the scales, and Aquarius is the man pouring down waters. Now, the only other sign in the zodiac that has human in it is Sagittarius, the centaur, and Virgo. But the air signs are known for their humanity. You see, so when we enter these signs, we are more humane toward each other. We are more understanding of each other. We are more tolerant. We are more spiritual, if you like, philosophical. We are able to reason with all our faculties. Our higher intellect is opened up to us.
Maybe it allows us to tap into source more readily. Because of that.
Absolutely. And then, I mean, I can go on and on. I mean, there's Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. Uranus means the heavens. And Saturn is also the co-ruler. So, now, Saturn is the son of Uranus in the Greek mythologies, and Jupiter is the son of Saturn. Jupiter was the ruler of Pisces. His day finished yesterday. He ruled Pisces. It's bye-bye Jupiter. Jupiter represents wealth and capitalism and greed. Greed is the negative polarity of Jupiter. Positive polarity is, goodness, I've better check my astrology, temperance. Sorry, gluttony is the negative polarity of Jupiter. Temperance is the positive polarity. Saturn's negative is greed. Saturn's positive is prudence. So what Jupiter has given us is he's given us a focus on money and wealth and what we own and what we can have, because he gives. He is abundant. He is magnanimous. Jupiter in your chart will always give benefic goods. You see, you always look for Jupiter in the chart to see what he's doing, because he's always going to give something good, but not always. Not always. You see, if you get a pot of honey, which is really, really good, honey is good, but if you eat that pot of honey all in one go, you can actually kill yourself. You can get really sick with overeating honey. Too much of a good thing is deadly. And so
gluttony is spoken of in the Bible as well.
Exactly. It's one of the 7 deadly vices. And every planet has one vice and one virtue. And it's up to us to turn the polarity around and make them positive. Now, Aquarius, even though Saturn's sitting there waiting to rule over Aquarius, and we know that he's greedy, but he is also prudence. And this is our time to be prudent, to lift our heads up, stop this killing and division that Jupiter has caused in the divisive age of Pisces, and bring about unity, bring about cohesiveness and oneness and temperance, and all of the good things that we know that we have and that we are capable of. And because Uranus is the heavens, he gets to rule the first 1,000 years of Aquarius. And so we can look forward to Uranus's golden age. He will usher in the beautiful golden age of Aquarius, and opposite Aquarius is Leo, the lion, the tribe of Judah, and the scepter shall not depart from that tribe. In other words, what it's saying is, you've got to read between the lines, because if Aquarius is ruling the age, well, so is the opposite sign. It has to be. Leo cannot be excluded from this rulership. We are actually entering, according to Vedic astrology and other traditions of astrology, it's not Aquarius we're entering, it's Leo. And Leo is gold. It's the heart, and so the heart chakra has been lifted up. We have been lifted up to the heart chakra from the Virgo chakra, which is connected to Pisces. You see, Virgo and Pisces is one axis. That's gone, finished yesterday, goodbye. Now we are in the Aquarian Leo axis. That means that our energies are focused in the heart, whereas before they were in the belly. Virgo is in the belly. and in the solar plexus, which is concerned with food and power and earthy things that disconnect us from our true spiritual nature, from the higher dimensions in which we exist. But Leo now is going to bring us into the heart, and the heart is where we are going to do things from. Not from the belly, because the paunch is where, the controllers have controlled us from. Why would the controllers and the banksters want to be so excessively rich that billions of the Earth's inhabitants are actually starving to death? We know for a fact that if we got all the art that the royals owned and the Vatican owned, and we sold those and turned those into food for the world, that everybody would be fed. So why do they need to be so greedy? Well, that's because we've been in the belly. We have been transiting the greedy signs. These have been, and isn't it great when we can quote the scriptures and give them, their true meaning and true emphasis?
Exactly.
Like you said before, you said Amen. Well, Amen is an anagram of name. So when you say in Jesus' name Amen, you are actually saying in Jesus' name, name. And that's very powerful when you think of it.
Right. And the apocalypse is not about the end of things and battles or anything like that. It's about lifting the veil. It's about things being exposed. And doesn't it then transition into consciousness raising as well?
Sure. Apocalypsis in Greek means the revealing, lifting the veil. So, Revelation, I can go scripture for scripture through Revelation and show you the true meaning of it. Not because, I'm some smarty that knows everything, but because I've got the key. And the key is astrological. It's astrological. For instance, I'll give you just a little snippet. And of course you know, Catherine, because we've done 6 or 7 shows together, and I've revealed this to you, so you're well aware of this. But for the first-time listeners, all right, Jehovah. Jehovah is made up of 4 letters in Hebrew: Yod, He, Vah, He. But in English, they would be JH, VH, or JHWH. Now, W is really just a V, or 2 V's, okay? So, if you want to understand what this name means, look up. Look up at the skies and look up at the fixed signs. Look at, starting with Scorpio, and then going through Aquarius, then Taurus, then Leo. And if you know what I'm saying, you will see with your eyes wide open the name Jehovah written in the skies. And this is how it works. When you look at Scorpio, you see a J. It looks like it's in the shape of a J. Its opposite sign is Taurus, and the Hyades, which is the head and the horns of the bull, are in the shape of a V. The moment you isolate Taurus in the sky, you will see a V. So there's your J and there's your V. And Leo and Aquarius opposite each other, they are the 2 H's. So when you know your astrology, you look up and you know what the Bible is talking about. Jehovah is the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac.
Someone just asked in the chat room if the 3 wise men were astrologers.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, because they came from the east and they followed the star, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that's Sirius. Because...
Perfect sense.
Yeah. If you go out tonight and look straight up at midnight, you will see Sirius directly above your head. Well, not directly, because it's probably about 30 degrees off, because we've had, since 2,000 years ago, there's been 31 or 32 degrees of precessional slippage. You see? That's why I said before at the start that the sun appears to go through the signs, because the signs are actually slipping back 1 degree every 72 years. So because of this slippage, when you look up tonight, you'll see Sirius directly above the brightest star in the sky. Blue she is. She is magnificent. And Sirius, of course, is Isis. And she, at Christmas time, every Christmas, the ancients would look up, and there she was, staring right down at you. And pointing to her are the 3 beautiful, bright stars, look, it's only like about 30 degrees away from Sirius. You will see Orion's belt, the 3 stars, and they are the 3 wise men that come from the east, because all stars rise in the east, and as they come up and they are positioned at midnight directly above, those are the 3 wise men that followed the star, that point to and hover over the stable, the manger, where the Christ is born. And of course, that would be Capricorn, because we are now in the first day of Capricorn. And opposite Capricorn, where Sirius is Cancer. And in Cancer, the most significant stars are called the manger. It's 4 little stars that are grouped in a little square, and 2 of those stars are called the little donkey and the big donkey. This is why you often see donkeys around the manger, because it's talking about Cancer. Sirius and Cancer are directly overhead at midnight, pointing straight down. Below your feet is Capricorn, and that's where the sun is at midnight, New Year's Eve, on the 24th of December every year, and this play goes on every year, and yet churchgoers go to church and they think that this is literal, that the Son of God actually came and was born of a virgin, and he is now our Saviour, and we celebrate this every year. And this is a very, very sad thing, because it's like little children who literally believe in a literal Santa Claus. You know, and they haven't got the, they haven't got the memo yet. They haven't received the higher consciousness to be able to discern that these are metaphysical, mystical stories to elevate us up from the animal, instinctive mind frame, and to bring us up into the mind of the hero, the philosopher, the angel, the God, the Jew, the one that is ready to be saved. And salvation means what? It means salvation from the lower mind. Because if you're in the lower mind, you're going to act like an animal. You're going to have jealousy. And who does jealousy hurt? It doesn't hurt the person you're jealous of.
It hurts you. It's your ego.
God damn it does, I'll tell you what. Yeah, and try getting angry. If you have a fit of anger like, I'm accustomed to, because I'm Aryan and I've got a lot of Mars in my chart, it's very easy for me to get angry. It hurts me, I can tell you. And I have toothaches for days.
I'll tell you, it's been a test, Santos, because I've been telling myself in my head when somebody upsets me, especially this past month, find your grace, Kathy. Don't let them take it from you. Because it's been a test. It's been a spiritual dogfight. And we probably still are in a little bit of that spiritual dogfight. I wanted to ask you what you think that the three wise men, the three gifts signified. Frankincense and myrrh and things like that.
And gold, yeah. Well, gold is the sun, and frankincense and myrrh were always the two primary incenses and offerings that were made in all the temples, especially in Egypt, to the sun at the winter solstice.
How interesting also is it that frankincense can be used to get chi moving around in your body as well. Life force.
Oh yeah, man. I've got the essential oils of frankincense and myrrh, and I tell you what, when you put that in your little diffuser for a couple of hours and diffuse all around the home, you're in frankincense territory. I tell you what, you go into a beautiful meditative state, and it is divine. These spices and herbs and offerings, these were always burnt and offered in the temples, because the smoke, that smoke is a symbol of the soul ascending and the spirit, you see. And this is why we have candles sitting on the altars, because those flames are representative of the sun, the primary orb of life and vitality in our solar system. The one that represents the invisible, causal God, the creator, which we call God. It represents that one, our father and mother, Isis and Ra, better than any other orb. This is why the Egyptians respected and adored it so much. They didn't worship it. There was no need to, because the sun is just the archangel Michael. It is an entity. It is a creature who itself is like us. And yet, man, which includes woman, of course, because look at the word woman. Man comes from the womb of the woman. So when you say man, please, ladies, do not be. It irritates me when people take that wrongly, because these are expressions that we should understand that for humanity. So, but when
anything less is lower vibrational way of thinking. If they come off that way, they're just thinking lower vibrationally. You said, and what about man? Vice versa. Come on now.
So yeah, humanity is is elevated by this science and by these practices that we have always respected and adored. And so the sun was always known to be this entity. And yet we, humanity, we are above the sun. We are more magnificent than the sun. Is that amazing to you? I mean, this is what all occultists have ever known, because we will rise above the order of the sun and the angels. We were made above them in the Empyrean, and we have fallen from there. We have descended into incarnation from there. So we are more glorious than those stars that we look up to. We look up at the stars and think, oh, wow, how glorious they are. No, we, in fact, are the finest creation in the universe. Humanity.
Divine.
This is why we have an opportunity to lift ourselves up now in the age of Aquarius and show who we really are and not buy into the fear. Let us be divine. Let us self-determine our steps and think for ourselves and know who we are. Because Aquarius is all about determination. We've been controlled for a long, long time, and that must end. It must end if we're going to stop killing in wars and all of this, these aberrations and all of this destruction and havoc we are reaping on this earth, raping the earth, charging people for energy when energy is the modus operandi of the universe. How dare the controllers do that? And so we are now poised to change all this, Catherine, and it's beautiful.
That's great. Are you finished with that thought, or would you like to go into one of those songs that we have queued up?
Yep.
Santos and I are extreme Led Zeppelin fans. I think they were seers. I think they got mad downloads. I think they were ascended masters of sorts, in their own rock and roll kind of way. Do you want to add anything to that, Santos?
Oh, yeah. These guys, I mean, Jimmy Page was a big, he had an occult bookshop called Equinox in the late 60s and early 70s, and he would go around collecting all Aleister Crowley artifacts. Now, I have quite a few of Aleister Crowley's works, and they are quite good. Even though, we know he wasn't a saint, we know that, but he was quite a genius, and that should be respected. But Jimmy Page was quite a spiritualist, and Robert Plant, of course. Never has there been such exquisite alchemical lyrics in the format of what we call rock and roll than in Led Zeppelin. I mean, I enjoy the music of a lot of music, but I have never witnessed the lyrics, the kind of which Robert Plant has shared with the world. And I can go through some of the songs and I can show the meanings of those and show how they are exquisitely alchemical.
Well, we have a song queued up, and it's, Dave, you ready?
Yes, ma'am, I are.
All right, great. We're gonna since it's probably like an 8 or 10 minute song, we're gonna play about 3 minutes of Battle of Evermore, and it explains it's such a timely song, even though it was written way back when. Don't you think, Santos?
Oh yeah.
So we're going to listen to about 3 minutes of that, and we're going to come down, and Santos is going to break it down the way he does best. So thanks for being here, guys. Enjoy the song. Back in a few. We are back. Thank you all very much for being here. I'm joined this evening with Santos Bonacci, and you just heard part of a song by Led Zeppelin called The Battle of Evermore, and Santos is going to break that down and what the meaning of it is. Santos, are you there?
Yeah, now... this is one of those songs that they wrote in the late 60s, of course, because this was released in the Stairway to Heaven album, which is pure alchemy.
Right.
We can eat Stairway to Heaven because that's a beauty. But
we're going to listen to that one, and a little bit later you can break that one down. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
Real good one. But supposedly... Robert was reading about the wars between the Picts and the Scots that were occurring in ancient times, and he was reading a book on this, you see. And of course we know that they were big Tolkien fans, and you look at songs like Ramble On, Four Sticks, Misty Mountain Hop, and there's about 7 or 8 songs, Kashmir included, that are clearly Tolkien-esque. Now, no one else that I know, that I'm aware of, has dared to put Tolkien into a modern rock and roll format. You know, I mean, as much as I love Pink Floyd and Black Sabbath and Supertramp and the Stones, you know, the Eagles and all of these big bands, none of them, I'm afraid, could touch Tolkien and do it, you know, justice. And whereas Led Zeppelin did, and so they deserve that accolade. They deserve that, and they really did a good job of it. But so, although we are told that this was written from that book that Robert was reading at the time, and then penned these words, you can clearly see Tolkien in here, and you can see alchemy. It starts off, the Queen of Light took her bow, and then she turned to go. The Prince of Peace embraced the gloom and walked the night alone. Well, this is, you know, the forces of light and darkness, and this is what we see in nature. You see, they were, the symbols that they had were occult symbols of nature. And the Dark Lord rides in force tonight, and time will tell us all. Throw down your plough and hoe. Rest not. Oh, goodness, the lyrics that I'm looking at are a little bit different, aren't they? That race now to my bow. No, that's not right. No, I should have picked better lyrics. I just hopped onto the internet. But anyway.
The Queen of Light took her bow, and then she turned to go?
Yeah, I just did that one. The next one. You got the next lyric?
Oh, God.
Plough and hoe. Never mind.
1 second. I will get it for you in 1 second.
Yeah, and then it goes to say, the apples of the valley hold the seeds of happiness. The ground is rich from tender care. Repay, do not forget. So this is talking about, you know, the harvest, and not just the harvest in a literal sense. It's talking about the harvest of the soul. You see, the
right.
ground must. The ground that is rich that it's talking about is the ground of your body. You see, so if you cultivate the body with virtues, you know, those seeds are the beautiful oil that is flowing in the body. Mm-hmm. These ones that will, if you look after the ground with tender care and repay to the ground, you will reap the rewards. Here's another one. Let's see, where's there you go. The drums, the pain of war cannot exceed the woe of aftermath. The drums will shake the castle wall. The ring wraiths ride in black. Well, there's a bit of Tolkien there. You can see that clearly, can't you?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So you see the forces of light.
Prince of Peace embraced the gloom and walked the night alone. That's what it was. The lyric that we were missing.
Yeah, no, the next one. Go down to the next one. The Dark Lord rides in force tonight. Well, look at that. The Dark Lord rides in. And time will tell us all. And then the next one says, throw down your plough and hoe.
Rest not your lock or homes.
That's the one. Rest not and lock your homes. Yeah, there you go. That's better. This one that I've got's a bit chonky.
Side by side we wait the might of the darkest of them all. I hear the horses thunder down in the valley below. I am waiting for the angels of Avalon, waiting for the eastern glow.
Right, the Eastern Glow. Well, what is the Angels of Avalon? Well, Avalon is the Shambhala, isn't it? It's basically referring in an occult way to the cerebrum. It always is, because the stairway to heaven is the spinal cord, and when one reaches Avalon, the high place, Jerusalem, Mount Meru, Mount Zion. This is the anticipated. This is where we are all directing our focus. We are all raising ourselves up to become something better all the time. And this is what it's talking about when it's talking about waiting for the Angels of Avalon, waiting for the Eastern Glow. What other
the apples of the valley hold the seeds of happiness. The ground is rich from tender care. Repay, do not forget. No, no, dance to the dark of night. Sing to the morning light. Is that something about returning the seed? Or is that...
It always refers to that. Always refers to that. Tithing, in the Bible, it's called tithing. If you do not tithe, you will not reap the benefits. You see, if you tithe, if you give 10%, you always have to repay to the ground. You see, if you're always stealing from the ground becomes arid. The same is with the body. If you're stealing from the body, in other words, squandering the beautiful oils, overeating, overdrinking, then the body will repay you with death.
And the last line is pretty cool. At last the sun is shining, the clouds of blue roll away, with flames from dragon of darkness, the sunlight blinds his eyes.
Yeah, isn't that beautiful? I mean,
go ahead.
Who can like that?
Yeah, we forgot the most important line. The magic runes are writ in gold to bring the balance back. Bring it back.
Yeah, only Robert can sing that high up there.
I'm not. I can do it, but I'm not going to yell on this cheap microphone singing like that. That's for sure. Need a better microphone for that.
Yeah, I love that lyric actually. The one you just read. The beads of time are slow. Tired eyes on the sunrise, waiting for the eastern glow. Why do you wait for the eastern glow? Because that's where the sun rises at 0 degrees right ascension. You see, the daily right ascension is 6 a.m. regardless whether the sun rises earlier or later. Every day, 6 a.m. is right ascension. And we always look to the east to see that eastern glow. And when the sun comes up, that's the Saviour rising, you see. And that corresponds to the sun rising in your cerebrum.
Right.
So it's all there. Yeah, this is all pure alchemy. And the references to the ground and to angels of light and darkness, these are all aspects of the dualistic world that we live in, Catherine, because this is how it works. Now, can we spend a little time on theology?
Sure. Someone just asked, it's probably what you're going to talk about next, so I'll just let you go with it. Go ahead.
All right, but just a little bit.
Go. By all means.
Yeah. We learn in our theological works that God is light. And so we see heaps of people, churchgoers included, repeating, oh, God is light, but they still insist that God is something else. You know, some entity that sits in the clouds, he's got a beard, he's angry, and he's described, each one has their own description for him, you know. Jehovah's Witnesses have painted him one way, and then the Mormons, and then so they've all got their different version of who this God is, and they own their versions, and therefore, by extension, they believe that they own the truth about that God, which they don't, because nobody can. We all do, because we all belong to it. And when we look at that expression, God is light, we immediately see the truth behind what has divided humanity for so long in science and religion, you see. There's the two main elements of civilizations, the fundamental elements, religion at war with science. Well, why would they be at war with one another? It's because they don't understand each other's languages. It's like, you know, I'm going to fight with the Italians because I can't speak their language. They're saying these dumb words that I can't understand. They're speaking a pseudo-language. I hate them. Yeah, it sounds terrible. What's Italian? I can't understand it. It's false. So rather than appreciating each other's different languages which are saying the same thing, religion is science and science is religion. How so? Well, God is in fact light, because everything proceeds from what we call the still, undivided magnetic light, which is the causal creator. From the stillness comes everything. For instance, where does sound come from? Sound comes from stillness. You hit a bell. A bell is silent until you come along and dong, dong, and you hear all these, and they ring and ring sometimes for, some of these big bells are designed to ring for, 10 minutes, and then if you stay close enough to the bell, you will hear the sound diminishes and then disappears back into the silence where it came from in the first place. So you see that sound comes from silence. It's not the other way around. It can never be the other way around. And sound is what in the Bible is called the Word of God. Because when you say a word, you're speaking, you're making noise. That's the Logos. And so this is why there's always two divine creatures. There's God and His only begotten Son. Because light and sound are the same thing. They're just different octaves of the same thing. Sound is light.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And sound...
Go ahead, Santos, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Sound comes in an octave, and so does light. The spectrum of light that we see, the rainbow, those 7 colours, that is an octave. They are both octaves. Both of them are octaves. And as the great Walter Russell said many years ago, that everything, even the elements, what we call elements, hydrogen, oxygen, etc., they all of the elements belong to 8 octaves. There are 8 octaves of elements. Everything is an octave, you see. It goes around as an octave. And so light, and there are 2 kinds of light. In Latin, there's 2 words for light, luce and lux. One is divine light and one is mundane light. Mundane light is earthy light that we can see, and divine light is light that you cannot see. And everything, every single thing that exists in this universe comes from that still, undivided, pure, white, magnetic, feminine light. It is Isis. Everything
we are here right now to learn to vibe at the highest possible light frequency, if you will.
Yes. Yes. Because we are from the mundane light, going back to the divine light where we came from.
Right. There's a lot of questions in the chat room, Santos, and I know people want them answered, and I think one of them might be answered after we cue up this next song. Is Dave around to cue up the next song?
You got a quarter?
Maybe, if you smile nice.
You mean a little stairway to heaven?
Absolutely. We're going to talk about what all that means when we come back. Thanks. We are back, and back with Santos Bonacci, of course, and you guys just heard part of Stairway to Heaven, and Santos is going to break down the meaning and importance of that song and how it's related to biblical teachings. Santos, take it away.
Yeah, and for all the... I remember when I was a Jehovah's Witness many years ago, I got put off this song because, of all the backward masking and all of the satanic lyrics, and it's the song of the devil. It's the... anthem, stay away from Stairway to Heaven. Now, how can you say that about a song that's called Stairway to Heaven? I mean, if it was called Highway to Hell, like AC/DC's, well, then probably you could say, well, that's going to hell, this one's going to heaven. Please, people, let's not get confused. Anyway, that was a sad time for me to do that, because I grew up with Led Zeppelin and I put it away for 20 years because because I was going around knocking on people's doors trying to save them to Jehovah. But look at the first lyrics. There's a lady who's sure all that glitters is gold, the sun, and she's buying a stairway to heaven. The stairway to heaven that you have to buy is in the Bible. It tells you to purchase gold in the Revelation chapter 3, when St. John got his vision of the 7 churches that are in Asia. And it says there, buy gold from me, Jesus says. If you do not buy gold from me, you will perish. So, and then she says when she gets there, she knows if the stores are all closed, with a word she can get what she can for. Well, what this is talking about is that you can't just rock up and expect, the pearly gates to open to you. If you ain't got the goods, you're not going to get in. And the goods have to do with loving works, high consciousness, and virtues. When you knock on those doors, you better have some virtues with you, because you're not getting in. There's a sign on the wall, but she wants to be sure. Well, this indicates that, you've be sure of your steps. There's always a deceiver. There's always a priest saying, oh, no, this is the true way to God. Come into this church and put donations in this box, not the Jehovah's Witness one. Because sometimes words have two meanings. So be careful of deception. Yeah, and there's the songbird. There's always a songbird. There's always... in a tree by the brook, there's a songbird who sings, sometimes all of our thoughts are misgiven. Well, that's pretty clear. That's talking about the same thing. And this is beautiful. There's a feeling I get when I look to the west, and my spirit is crying for leaving. When you look to the west, you are dying. The Egyptians used to say, if you're dying, you are westing, because that's where the sun sets. And that is where, in the west. In my thoughts I have seen rings of smoke through the trees and the voices of those who stand looking. Oh yeah, those who stand looking are the watchers, and they do stand looking, and it's your higher self waiting for you to grow up. And it's whispered that soon, if we all call the tune, then the piper will lead us to reason. The piper is us, and it is whispered in the winds. And if we do follow the tune, which is truth, we will be led to reason. And a new day will dawn for those who stand long, and the forest will echo with laughter. The new day is the day we're living in now, in Aquarius. And those who stand long are the ones who stand in truth and honour, and do not cower to the deceivers and the controllers. And the forests and the universe will echo with laughter, not just the forests. If there's a bustle in your hedgerow, don't be alarmed now. It's just a spring clean for the May Queen. In May, when the spring comes, you have to do your spring cleaning. Well, it's time to clean out all the bugs, get rid of all the negative thoughts. Yes, there are 2 paths you can go by, but in the long run, there's still time to change the road you're on. That's right, there are 2 paths. And one leads to, probably continual cycles of necessity, which is the processional cycle I was talking to you about before, Catherine, and we've been in it for probably around 26,000 years, and those who don't graduate because they're on the wrong path will have to stay here, and there is time to change the road you're on, and there's always time, because that's the loving universe, whereas the churchgoers will tell you, there's no time, join this church now! And they scare you into it, I'll tell you. Your head is humming and it won't go. In case you don't know, the piper's calling you to join him. That's pretty clear. Dear lady, can you hear the wind blow? And did you know your stairway lies in the whispering wind? And that is so true. The whispering wind is the air. It's the Spirit. It's the Holy Spirit, the Holy Dove, Mary Magdalene.
And such amazing lyrics.
It is amazing. It's all alchemy. It's pure alchemy. And as we wind on down the road, our shadows taller than our soul, there walks a lady we all know who shines white light and wants to show how everything still turns to gold. And if you listen very hard, the tune will come to you at last, when all are one and one is all, to be a rock and not to roll. And she's buying a stairway to heaven. Again, that's telling you the culmination of our efforts. If we put effort and buy gold and continue not to be deceived, by the deceivers, and stand long and strong and do our, spring cleaning and continue to perfect our nature and our virtues, well, we will be in the company of the lady who shines white light, and that is all the ones who have ascended, the ascended masters who go before us and encourage us and say, continue, do not let up, because if you endure, you will reap the rewards. And it's true. It is true. I endured. When I was a Jehovah's Witness, I didn't understand. I had a lot of cognitive dissonance. So in other words, I had truth that was in my own heart, and I had the truth that they were preaching. And it's very, very hard to meld them together when you know that your truth is going to outdo their truth. And in the end,
yes,
is what helped me, because I endured. I endured the confusion. I stayed on the road. I stayed true. And now I have the keys to the scriptures, and I'm sharing them with the world. The keys are astrological. They always have been. They always will be.
And we are here to remember who we are, aren't we, Santos?
We
Does
are.
anybody remember laughter?
Yeah. That was in the song that remains the same version, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not in the studio version.
Yeah. You know you're a Led Zeppelin fan when you know what I meant when I said that. Someone has a question in the chat room, and it applies sort of to what you're just speaking of. I'm trying to answer them as best as we can. Could Santos talk more about the holy oil process in us? Is a question by Dakota Flower.
I would love nothing more than to talk about that. And in 3 days' time, we are going to celebrate Christmas. And Santa Claus is going to come to the North Pole, and he's going to climb down the chimney, and he will have presents for all of us, and we will rejoice in those presents, and we will revel in the beautiful gifts that were given to us by Saint Nicholas. And then he returns, and he hops on his little red-nosed reindeer, and he goes all the way back to live in the North Pole. Well, if you want to understand the story and what that means, it's such a beautiful, exquisite story. Please read the book God-Man, The Word Made Flesh by George Carey. And in there he explains that Santa Claus lives in the North Pole, which is in the cerebrum, right at the top of our heads. And the word head is shares the same root as the word heaven. For that very reason, that the head is where the heaven is. And if you want to find hell, go all the way down to the bottom of your body, where you find a body member called heel. At the bottom of your foot, take the A out, and there you will have hell. Hell and heaven is in your body. So Santa Claus lives in the North Pole, and to be exact, he lives in the claustrum, which is a little cloister, a little closet. And it's called, in biology, in biochemistry, it's called the holy claustrum, or the Santa, which means holy, claustrum. And that's shortened to Santa Claus. And you see, what is produced there is the beautiful fluid that comes from the cerebrum, and it's called chrism. Yeah, pretty much similar to Christ, because it is. And that oil descends from the claustrum. It occupies the third ventricle, and it is differentiated into two fluids, a positive and a negative. At the pineal gland, it becomes a positive fluid, and it descends down the Pingala nerve, which is the two serpents that are on the caduceus. One is positive, one is negative. Mercury's caduceus, or the staff of Apollo, and the other fluid is magnetic, negative, by the pituitary body. Now, the pituitary is Mary, and the pineal is Joseph. These are the genitors, the virgin genitors of the Christ. Now, where do we find the Christ? Well, let's descend down the Jacob's ladder, shall we, and see if we can find Jesus. As the oil descends down, it reaches the sacrum. This is where the generative organs, masculine and feminine organs, are, the reproductive organs, the womb, or the ovaries and the testes. And you see, when you combine the secretion that happens at the claustrum with the sacrum, you have the sacred secret. So because the word secret comes from secretion, and it descends down to the sacrum, which is the sacred part of the spinal column. In fact, they call those 5 fused bones, which is the stone of Jacob, the stone of Scone, they call that the sacral plexus, the sacrum. And there are 5 parts to the dorsal bone, the spine, and that is the second most bottom part, just above the coccyx, which is 4 fused bones. These 5 fused bones are the stone or the rock that Jesus builds his church on when he says, Peter, it is on this rock that I shall build my church. Because if we can build from that base and climb back up Jacob's ladder with the oil, all intact, instead of squandering it downstairs, it's nice to have physical orgasms. Oh yeah, feels good. But it feels better when you have them upstairs. So a real man is one that is able to control those passions and desires, and a real woman, and they are able to transmute and sublimate those beautiful fluids. And this is how it happens. Every month, the moon will transit your solar sign, the sun that the sign that the sun was in when you were born. In my case, Aries. In your case, Scorpio. Catherine?
Yes.
Yeah, and so if we have a good moon tracker on our computers, we can tell. Right now, the moon is in Aries, so I have to be a very good boy, and so when the moon is transiting there, she picks up the fluids and she posits in the solar plexus, just above the sacral plexus, a seed, a germ, a psychophysical germ, and this germ will grow if we look after it. We must be the caretakers of our temples. And we must balance our bodies and be balanced in eating and drinking and all sorts of activities, even emotions, even sensations, even thinking. Excessive thinking can consume that oil, you see. Thinking is not knowing. And so all of these activities that we think are normal and good can be harmful, just like anything that is good can be bad. A knife, you can butter your bread, or you can stab someone to death with it. and these fluids are the same. They can be so beneficial to our organism. In fact, if we look after that germ, which is born in the solar plexus, which is in Virgo. Virgo is the Virgin, and it's also the breadbasket, and it's also called Bethlehem. And this is baby Jesus that is clothed in linen. And the reason why that little baby Jesus is clothed in that swaddling cloth, I think that's what it's called, linen, it is to be protected, you see, because that germ has a coating around it. And if your body is excessively acidic, it will penetrate that coating, just like the cell membrane is penetrated by all of these aspartame and fluoride and all this crap that they're giving us. We can actually destroy that little baby Jesus. But if we look after it, we are balanced, and we don't get angry, we can lift it up, and it will ascend. It is designed to ascend, and what happens is it will ascend, and it will. And we have 12 opportunities, by the way, 13 opportunities every year as the sun transits, as the moon transits the sun sign. So if you're a Taurian, when the moon is in Taurus for 2.5 days, be a good boy and girl, please, and then you will reap the benefits. And in fact, you will feel it. I always feel very, very, very enlightened and, I don't know, just mystical and powerful and happy when the moon is in my sun sign. She's a beautiful orb, and she really, really does generate a lot of internal spiritual energy when she goes through your sun sign, and she is generating the baby Jesus. And if you raise that Christ, that chrism, the oil, the salt of salvation, it eventually reaches the medulla oblongata, and from there it crosses the pons, which is the very, very top of the spine, a spinal cord. And the pons is the word for ponte or pontifex, which means bridge. And if you cross the bridge, where's that confounded bridge? Now you'll get that one.
Yep. More Led Zeppelin, thank you very much.
Where's that confounded bridge? If you can cross that bridge, you will get to heaven. And what happens then is the oil reaches the optic thalamus, which is the light of the world, which is the true heart in man, which is the light in the temple. For the temple need not the sun or the moon for its light, because it has its internal light, says Revelation. And then it smears the optic thalamus, dies for 2.5, 3 days, just as Jesus does in the womb. And there is Mary, the Virgin Mother, always standing at the cross, because now you've been crucified. Because when the oil crosses the vagus nerve, which crosses at the top of the pons, the medulla oblongata, once that oil crosses, the Christ is crucified. There is Mary and Joseph awaiting the return. Mary is always faithful at the cross to see her son crucified. She rejoices because she knows he will be resurrected. The oil then goes to the pineal gland. The pineal gland, which has hitherto been producing which has until that very point been producing an oil, a fluid called dimethyltryptamine and melatonin, and now it will produce a new fluid which is called the blood of the Christ, which saves you, because that fluid that the pineal gland can produce, we all have the potential in us to produce this, will purify the blood and restore all the dormant brain cells. And we have activation, and we have halos, and we have salvation. And this is what it means to return to the heavens and to be saved and to inherit and reach the higher mind.
Well, that's probably part of the reason why they don't want us to have any extra DNA on hand, or DMT on hand, because they don't want us to raise our God mind. You know, DMT is in everything, is it not? It shouldn't be illegal.
Oh, yes.
And when, as far as the church goes, when they say give back 10%, they're not speaking about what they want you to think you're talking about 10% of your income to give back to the church. But what it really means is return 10% of that to the heavens, and do not have sexual intercourse when the moon is in your sun sign for that given month, so your oil can rise. And it makes me crazy, Santos, when I hear people on talk shows saying, orgasm your way to enlightenment. It's like, what planet are you on? You know, they think no matter what, that's the way to salvation. And it just drives me crazy. Do you want to speak about that at all?
There's always the opposite. And for the lower-minded people that haven't really given any attention to self-development and self-determination and thinking for themselves and knowing who they are. For those people, you know, the orgasm is basically the best thing that they've got. I mean, you look around. You look. Why do guys go to the bar to pick up chicks, and why do they go to the clubs, and why do men that are in the lower mind often say that they do everything for sex, for the woman, for getting laid, right? And this is a saying that I've heard countless times in my life, countless conversations I've had with boys that, men that are boys or boys that think they're men, and they'll say, everything we do in the end is for women so that we can get laid. That's all we do. We go to work so we can get money, so we can go and get chicks, and because they really believe in their heart of hearts, that it is the ultimate, the ultimate experience and pleasure that they can have. But what they fail to understand is that, and this is the secret of the philosopher and the one that practices, pure white tantric sex, that they know that is way, way far from the truth. It's actually the worst of the great sensations that the universe has given us, because if one can go beyond that, which is quite impossible for some men, like they do 5 minutes and they're proud of themselves. I lasted 5 minutes, a bit like Homer Simpson, remember? In The Simpsons, when Marge goes to visit him at the plant, and he turns around and he says, "Guys, I'm going to my car with my wife. I'll be back in 10 minutes."
Poor Marge.
Marge. Well, see, what they don't realise is that there is the earthly orgasm, which is squandered down below, and there's the one that raises that fluid up the spine in the act of having beautiful, divine, loving sex, and they experience what's called a spiritual orgasm, an air orgasm. And what happens is, it's impossible to say how much better it is than the physical orgasm, because there's no figure. It's just astronomically much. You're in a place of unity consciousness with your partner. And if you can breathe in unison together with your partner, in love, in sex, then you will just have a perpetual orgasm for as long as you like. And this kind of sex is actually rejuvenating. The other kind of sex is aging. People age with that kind of sex when they have sex with lower instinct, where it's like, their attitude is, let's have a quickie, or let's get it on. That you'll notice that those people age really quickly, and this is why people that are in the sex industry, like pimps and prostitutes, and that you can see the haggard look on their faces, because they are squandering the beautiful electromagnetic energy which is descending and ascending up that spine continuously. And here we are, and we have these beautiful bodies, these temples of Solomon, and the Temple of Solomon was built without the sound of hammer or saw, because it's in reference to the body. And we have these beautiful temples, and we don't even know how they work. It's like someone who gets in a car, doesn't check the oil, or the water, or the fluids in the brake, all those fluids, and just turns the key and just goes all the time, just goes, never checks anything, puts diesel in instead of gas, destroys the motor. And these are destructive people. And before you know it, the car is not maintained, and what happens is you blow the head or something, or the car gets ruined. Now, whereas there are some people who love their car, change the oil after 5,000 miles, change the air filter, maintaining the car, and the car lasts 40 years, and they can sell it one day, 10 times the value that they bought it at, because it's a collector's item. Now, how does that happen? Whereas you see some people, they within 2 years the paint's oxidised because they leave it out in the sun and they don't wax it, they don't change the oil, and the motor's blowing oil. And this is the same with the body. We can keep the body very, very, very healthy. And one of the elixir of life is the sex act. That's the elixir of life. If we can bring the fluids back and do our tithing and repay our Father who art in heaven, give us our daily bread. The bread is the chrism. That's the bread. So we're asking our Father daily, give us our daily bread. And what for? So we can eat it and squander it. And so this is the alchemical process of salvation. It's all something that happens within. Ain't nobody coming in the clouds to save us because we can't.
Absolutely.
That's the literal Santa Claus story. Little children believe in Santa Claus and then have their hearts broken at the age of 12, because it's not true anymore. But whereas the parents, instead of stopping at that and just telling their children, stopping short at, hey, Santa Claus is not real, and instead of telling them, but you know who and what Santa Claus really is, little children? Let me tell you, because they should be preparing them at the age of 12, because that's adolescence and puberty, when all of a sudden they're going to be attracted to the opposite sex, and they're going to want to squander as much of that oil as they possibly can before they die, because it's so much fun, whereas they can be taught, sure, look, you got this beautiful desire, guess what? Bottle it. Keep it, because if you discharge it, you will be the loser in the end.
Santa Claus is how I explained to my daughter what being multidimensional was. So Santa had his purpose so far in my daughter's life. She got it. She understood. She wanted to know how her pup-up that passed away could still be with her when she's at her dad's house. And I said, you know how Santa is? I said, that's how spirits are. They can be anywhere. They're multidimensional. But I'll have to save that other one because she's a little bit older so she can understand it because she's only 10. But there's a lot of questions in the chat room, Santos, and I know you've answered most of them before, and I'm trying to choose ones at the level of importance that I think. And I know this is on a lot of people's minds. I know you've answered this before, but someone says, Swami asks, could Santos explain the 13th sign, Ophiuchus, and why it has only recently come into the attention of humanity?
Yeah, that's a good question, why it is only recently, because the ancients, who were far more conscious than we are at the moment, at present, they knew that the whole system of astrology, based on the sun and the tropical cardinal points of the sun's journey through the heavens, is based on the number 12. Because the universe, they knew, was a conscious organism, one mind, one creator, which expressed itself in 12, the dodecahedron. The dodecahedron is the master sacred geometrical form which controls all the other forms, the icosahedron, the tetrahedron, the hexahedron, and the octahedron. And so they knew that the sun had to transit these 12 conditions in the skies. Now the moon, on the other hand, the sun's wife and partner and helpmate, she does 13 spaces in the sky. In fact, the moon will do 13 orbits of the Earth per solar year. The moon advances 13 degrees in the skies every day. The moon expresses itself in 13. So if you understand that astrology is both solar and lunar, then you will be able to incorporate both numbers and both systems. The sun relates more to the left brain, and the moon is the right brain. And so the moon is the secret inner self, the reactive inner self in astrology. And she's connected with intuition, she's connected with the right brain and how you do things artistically. And so if you are able to understand her cycle, well then 13 is great. And a fucus must then be introduced and considered as one of the signs. But because of the dodecahedron being the master of the polyhedra, most astrologers default to the 12 system. And look, there's nothing wrong with the 13 system. It works. In fact, 12 rounds out to 13, just like a septenary is always called an octave. So when I play my guitar, I play 7 diatonic notes, but that's called an octave. And for the reason that when you play the first note again at a higher interval, that will be the 8th note, and therefore it is an octave, and not a septenary. So the same thing happens with astrology. It gets rounded out to 13 because there are 13 signs, and then there's the sun. There are 13 disciples of Jesus, and then there's Jesus, etc., etc. And so wherever there is 12, there is 13. But now that's not to say that people should, forget the ancients' astrology. In fact, we should be returning to the ancients' astrology more so than anything that is new. Not that anything that is new is deficient. We must also embrace the new, but the ancient is, is and always will be, because in fact there is nothing new under the sun. What they gave us, what they taught us in that system, is how the universal mind thinks, because everything is a product of the ideas that come from the stillness. See, when I play my guitar, for instance, and I play a song of the duration of, say, 4 minutes, just like we listened to Stairway to Heaven, it lasted 4 minutes, and then it went into the silence. It stopped. Can't go forever. Everything, all sounds go back to silence. That's their true home, and that's where they exist. They do not exist outside of silence. They appear to exist. It's an illusion. Every song is an illusion. Beautiful illusion, albeit, as Einstein said, reality is an illusion, albeit a persistent one. It's very persistent. So we are deceiving ourselves with our senses when we hear beautiful songs, when we see beautiful things, when we think that God is a God of matter. It's not. There is nothing that exists outside of the one universal still mind of the Creator that we are. And we will return to that stillness, because everything in nature seeks stillness. There are only 2 desires. One to separate and to divide and experience, and then one to have a rest and return to the rest from which the separation come from. And that is the dance of nature. And that is how all things in the universe operates, for there is only one thing that exists.
Yes. And the book of Revelations is even riddled with astrology innuendo.
Oh, it's astrological. And for the listeners that are really keen to understand this, please watch my recent offerings on YouTube at my YouTube site, Mr. Astrotheology, one word, and have a look at the syncretism series. I've got 8 hours of proofs that the Bible is the greatest astrological treatise in history, in the universe. And that's not the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedas and the, all the other beautiful things, but the Bible is a really, really polished number. It is really exquisite. And you will learn this if you see the syncretism series.
And there's also at our truthconnections.wordpress.com website in the library section a free download for that book you mentioned earlier, God Made Man. So if anybody wants to go there, there's a free download at our website for that book. Santos highly recommends it. Someone is asking, Santos, and we can take some callers in a little bit. I'll give out that number in a minute. Let me give out that number now so Dave can get them in queue. If anybody wants to call in, again, I'm trying to answer. There's tons of questions here. I'm trying to get them with, ask them with the flow of information that Santos is giving us as best as I can, and as far as the degree of importance given today's date. The call-in number is 1-775-657-5973 if anybody wants to call in. And here's another question for you, Santos. Someone would like to know about what your take is on, okay, what did they say? Can you explain the prophecy where there is no time and there are 3 days of darkness and the sun rises in the west? That was Stephen. That was Seven that asked that question.
Yeah, sure. Now, the Mayans that spoke about our day today, the 21st of December, anticipated that there might be this 3 days of darkness, and obviously that hasn't occurred. But why did they say that? Well, because this has happened many times in the past. But you see, not every transit is the same. And obviously this one is quite special because every time the sun is in this position in the solar system every 26,000 years or every 12,500 years, there have been recorded these days of darkness where the Earth stands still and then starts spinning the other way, therefore causing the sun to appear, to rise in the west. And then 12,000 years goes by, and then it rises in the east, and back and forth. Herodotus, the Greek historian, in his book The Histories, actually speaks about this. There's a passage in that book where he explains that the priests in Egypt told him that this happened. Now, it's obvious now that isn't going to happen this time around, and we are getting a real sort of smooth transit. Nonetheless, today the ethereal fifth sun has been born, and today we should be honourably celebrating the birthday of the new sun. This is a new sun in our heavens. You know, whether it looks different or not, it has a new element to it. It has a new component, which is ether, and it will be transmitting that ether to us through the photon belt, through the age of Aquarius, from the centre of the galaxy, and we will receive this for 2,000 years. So we are now in a blessed condition. Whether or not the dark forces are going to buck up and resist this and continue their, all their mechanisms of control remains to be seen. Let's hope that, your Hillary Clintons and your Gordon Browns and Queen Elizabeths and popes have a change of heart and decide, hey, we don't need to hoard all this wealth. Let's give it to everybody, and let's just have a great planet, and let's all be rich. We can all be happy. We can all love each other, and we'll all be benefiting. Because not only do they, the very, very filthy, rotten rich, suffer and die and have anxiety and they have to frown because they're worried about how much money they might lose on the stock market and lose sleep over it. It doesn't benefit anybody to have an unbalanced world as we've had in Pisces. It just doesn't benefit anybody. So let's hope and pray that everybody repents rather than this beautiful light having to come down here and to dissolve and destroy unrepentant workers of darkness. That would be very sad, I think.
We have a caller holding, but there's one more question I think you might be able to answer this quickly, Santos. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this mural, but William is asking, I noticed the churning of the Milky Sea in the Angkor Wat mural, and think the levitation God made to swim in the sea. Any thoughts about that?
You broke up. Can you just say that again? Sorry.
Sure. His question, it's kind of a statement question. I noticed the churning of the Milky Sea in an Angkor Wat mural and think of the levitation God made to swim in the sea. And he wants to know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, okay. Well, the configuration of Angkor Wat is in the image of Draco, if I'm not wrong. And Hancock has exposed this, and it's a beautiful temple. And there are bas reliefs on the rock carvings all over that temple that show how the gods are in a tug of war and pulling, on a rope, which is the rope of the Milky Way and the galaxy that is churning and turning and gyrating. And so this is Hamlet's mill. This is the mill, that keeps turning and turning and churning out evolved races on this planet, you see. And that's what the temples are depicting. Everywhere you go, it's the same story, where the gods are, a star turning the constellation around it, transit them and gather all of the energies and evolve through them all, and then in the end be harvested and taken to a higher octave. I hope I've answered that well, but anyway.
I think that was a good shot. Thank you for that. We have a caller holding from the 323 area code. Caller, you're live with World Spirit Radio. Your question for Santos. Dave, is someone on the line right now? I'm kind of confused. Okay, we had a caller. There was another question someone had real quick, Santos. What they wanted to know... Let me go find it. There's so many questions here. What is your take? Can you talk about cusps according to the moon? Well, that's the question.
Cusps according to the moon?
It's kind of like a vague question. That's why I'm trying to go through these questions better for you. Sorry about that. I don't know what his question is. I mean, it could be asking him many things. Howler, can you put that in the chat room? Okay, I'll find out if Dave has that question calling. And Santos, you've graciously agreed to stay a little longer. I appreciate that.
Yep.
It's coming up on the 10 o'clock hour. Here's another question. They want to know your take on if you I know the answer to this, if you advocate ayahuasca or mind-altering substances.
Yeah, entheogens. I would call these entheogens because they infuse theos into you, or God. So they give you God's mind. They expand your mind. These are consciousness expanders. I haven't had ayahuasca, but I look forward to it eagerly. I interviewed Max Egan 3 days ago on American Freedom Radio, and he described his experience with ayahuasca. I have had entheogens, and for those listeners who are ready, I would recommend to take some psychoactive plants, as long as they're natural. Psilocybin mushrooms are great. You can join a lot of dots with those. I think cannabis is the best all-round plant that you can ingest. It is absolutely divine. It is the greatest thing possibly outside of humanity that is in existence. It is exquisite. It's the tree of life. But if you have some inhibitions and if you're not sure and you have your doubts, don't do it. revert to the better option, which would be meditation. Now, what is meditation? You see, you can go to this school and you can go to that school, and they've got all their techniques and they're all good. Meditation is paying attention to the stillness. Be still. That's what meditation is. If you find the stillness, and you can do it through the breath. When you breathe and you give yourself love, don't breathe. Breathe down deep into your diaphragm and just love your breath. Just shut out all things, and just find the stillness. That is meditation. The moment you find that, you will find the divinity of yourself.
Yes, indeed. There's a couple callers on the line now. Who would like to? I'm not sure I can't see what area codes they're calling from now, but I guess the 516.
Came in first, 708 came in second, 516 came in third.
323. I asked for him. He wasn't there. Now there's two calls holding. So what's the next one? I can't tell what called.
I'm going to say this. This is not a call-in to listen number. If you don't have a question, you get dropped.
Is there anybody who's holding? Hello. Go right
Can
ahead.
anyone hear me?
Yes, we can. You are live.
Hi. Hello, everyone. Hello, Mr. Bonacci. I'm going to find out about archiving of this show, when it will be available, because I unfortunately missed it. I just found out about it.
It will
I would love to listen in.
It will be archived up on its appropriate folder in My Archives within an hour after the show is over.
In your archive, sir? I'm sorry, I don't know what
Spirit Radio. Wolf Spirit
at
Radio.
Wolf Spirit Radio. Okay, I got this from Mr. Bonacci's Facebook page. Mr. Bonacci, thank you for everything you do. May God continue to bless your soul and the cosmic, and yeah, I'm avid, so thank you.
Thank you for calling in. Okay, there's another caller holding. Are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You're live on the show. Do you have a question for Santos?
Good evening, Santos. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the new day. Yeah, I just really would like to talk to about, it's kind of more of a point. See if Santos could talk to this point that I got here. With all the trials and tribulations that all of us little spirits here on Earth are going through, and, as above, so below, with the bigger picture of Mama Earth and everything, I've been trying to send all the healing energy I can to her. Well, one thing I was thinking of as far as, as above is so below, is that thinking of all the things that we're doing to Mama Earth, pulling her beautiful oil out, all this oil that we use and we burn up, and all the, fracking and the injections into the ground, and, all the radiation and, your chemtrails, your this, your that, and everything and the other. On the bigger picture, as far as macro to micro, seems to me like, in general, not picking anyone out or anything, but just in general, as a race, it seems like all of us little beings down here on the planet are kind of metastasizing into a cancer cell. And we are attacking her and we're hurting her, which is really hurting us, again, is above so below. But my point is, in a way, it seems just like as the human body, when we get sick and we have to, we get a cancer, what they're doing now with the big pharma, and I'm talking pharma with a P, they're injecting all of this poisons into us and giving us radiation and chemo and all of these crazy toxic drugs and everything. Well, if you scale that up to the macro, it's like as if we're doing that to Mama Earth, if you guys know what I'm talking about, by, the radiation being released, all this. It's almost like as if Mama Earth herself has cancer, which could be us, generalized, and we're trying to, take care of her through the pharmaceutical companies, if you will. And I think that we just need to turn it around, and just like we need to heal ourselves through homeopathic means and, all natural means and stuff, it just seems in a way that the same thing is going on a bigger level. So that was pretty much my point, and appreciate you guys taking my call.
Thank you very much for calling in. Have a great day.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Santos, I know you wanted to talk about the sun and the light a little bit more. Did we cover that topic to your liking?
Yeah, let's do that because it's very important for people to understand the role of the sun. The sun is the vital force of the solar system. Our life proceeds from the sun. Our every breath that we take comes from the sun. The water is raised into the clouds so that the clouds can give us water to grow our vegetables so that we can live. It is the great representative of the causal one, and it is the one that we should be honouring the most of all things visible. And the great Walter Russell helped us to see how important the sun is in his beautiful book, The Secret of Light. Now, there's a couple of things that I would like to read from there. On page 199, he says, all things in this solar system come from the sun and return to it. The life germ from which man is seeking is in the sun. The idea of man is in the sun. Likewise, all idea of all things is in the sun, awaiting birth into form. The pulsing light of polarity borns all idea into its form. When conditions are favourable for each idea to be mothered by an extension of the sun. Everything in nature is a moving extension from a still point of the one light. The centre of the sun in our solar system is the point of still light from which everything in the entire solar system radiates spirally and toward which it gravitates spirally for its resurrection into another cycle. The sun is the seed of this solar system from which all manifestations of idea in this entire system extend and to which they return. Motion is for the sole purpose of manifesting idea. All idea springs from a state of rest in its seed. As it unfolds from its seed, it refolds into it. It therefore follows that motion is a seeming two-way extension, retraction from and to a point, and has no existence save to senses which sense but the extension and not the voiding simultaneous retraction. So basically what it's saying here is that all the seeds of every idea that you see in this solar system, bar none, come from the still point that is centered in the center of the sun. That is where the creator of our solar system exists. And we radiate spirally out of that the seed of us, and our Mother Earth is the one that gives us the elements, the nitrogen, carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, which make our bodies. And then, of course, when our bodies die, what we call die, then they return to the earth. Dust you are, dust you shall return. And then we return to stardust. And we gravitate spirally to be resurrected through the sun into another cycle. This is what we can look forward to, friends. And this is the only way back. There's no other way back. That's why Jesus says, no one goes to the Father except through me. Because Jesus is the sun in the sky. And then, page 206, I do want to read this, because this will really encourage listeners for... Today is a glorious day. It's the celebration of the birthday of the universe, and with what better words? Man is aware of himself as an individual, but his concept of what constitutes his individuality is vague. His individuality is what he unknowingly interprets his immortal self to be. His self, or soul, never changes, never appears or disappears, but his individuality constantly changes to forever fit the changing concept of what he interprets his immortal self to be. As every man gradually becomes gradually comes to know the light of his self in him, his individuality changes by the constant uplift toward that increasing awareness of his centering omniscience. As a greater awareness of the light of the universal self comes to man, he gradually loses his individuality and becomes more that universal self. When mankind has become fully aware of God in him, the play of man on this planet is finished. His purpose is fulfilled, and the individual man ceases to be. Man loses his expression of life in nature to find eternal life in the light. There is no death. So those are encouraging words I can share with the listeners today, because that's what we are. We are light. God is light. Therefore, we are God. God is us. Light is God. And we can rejoice in the knowing of this, that all is one, and that we are not using our minds, we are using the one mind to have this conversation. Every listener and every speaker is sharing in the one mind. And this is how beautiful it is, that we truly exist, not in a separated, divided world, but that we are united and all things are one. We can rejoice in that. This will help us to be more loving to one another. For why would you fool, which we do, if we know that we are looking in the mirror?
That's right. We have another caller here, 805 area code. You're live with Santos. Do you have a question?
Hi, Kathy. Hi, Santos.
Hey! Now, you should know better. You should know better to mute your microphone, girl.
Well, I can't mute this phone. This is an ancient phone.
Oh, you're right. You can't because you're calling from a regular phone. That's why he's
yeah,
so
when
much.
the power went out, all my cordless phones were fried, so, and I'm sorry. But I have a question, if Santos has time. Hi, Santos. Is there any possible way he could explain to the listeners how each human, no matter what your sun sign, passes through the zodiac in a 24-hour period of time?
Can you say that again, please? Sorry.
Okay. You know how you explain how it's from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, and then from 8 o'clock, how we pass through each of the signs of the zodiac during the day?
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yes.
Well, now, in order to understand this, one would have to probably read a good ancient astrological Egyptian work, and I would recommend my favourite book of all time, The Light of Egypt, by Thomas H. Burgoyne, who founded the school called the Hermetic Brothers of Luxor. Luxor is on the Nile River next to the Karnak Temple, and from there many initiates went forth into the world. And the light of Luxor, remember Lux is light, in this book, it's a beautiful book, I would get volume 1 and volume 2 of The Light of Egypt, and here he explains that right ascension in the daily 24-hour cycle always begins at Aries and at 6 a.m. So at 6 a.m. the sun is symbolically, regardless of where it is. For instance, the sun now is in Capricorn. It's the first day of Capricorn. But 6 a.m. this morning, it was transiting Aries. It has to. It always does. Every 6 a.m. It's always in the energy of Aries, because the morning sun is doing what Aries does, the ram. And then from 6 to 8, it is in the Aries masculine, positive, electric energy. And this is why we get up at 6 a.m. with the birds, and we get up, you know, like the ram does. It charges. It's courageous. It has the fieriness of the sun in the morning. There's nothing like that fieriness. You watch the sun rise out of the ocean, and it's like nothing else. Nothing else. It's masculine, you know. And then at 8 o'clock, it transits Taurus. So always in the morning there will be a couple of hours of calmness, and that's the beautiful Taurian, magnetic, feminine, earthy energy. And then at 10 a.m. to 12 midday is Gemini, mutable air. It's very sort of very airy, spirited. It's masculine. It's positive. So we pick up our energies again. You know. So we have that energetic early morning energy. Then we relax in Taurus, and then we charge up again with electricity. And then we hit midday, and Cancer comes. Cancer relaxes us with a beautiful moon waters, cardinal water. And so from midday to 2, we transit that beautiful, relaxed. And this is why many in Europe, they shut their shops at 12 o'clock and they go and have a sleep through Cancer, and then open their shops at 2 p.m. And that's when Leo comes in, the fire again, and activity starts again. And you will see this. You'll notice this. If you only pay attention, you will see that we are going from positive to negative, electric to magnetic, every 2 hours of the day. You see? And this continues all the way to Libra at sunset. Libra are always balancing the sun at 6 p.m. And you see the scales are even or level. And when you look at the word even and level, you'll find our Mother Eve hiding in that word, because the level, even scales are bringing the evening. You see? And that's why Venus rules that sign. And Venus, if you put an E in front of Venus, you get Eve. Eveness, because that's who Venus is. And Mars is Adam. Mars is red, and Adam means red. And Mars is always in the sign of Aries at 6 a.m. And you see Mars is the phallic, the red, male, electric phallic that rises in the morning, you see. And then Eve, or Venus, is evening things out in the evening. And this is it. This is the way the stars have been set. They are fixed that way. The Egyptians knew it. And so regardless of the sign that the sun is in, this daily motion of the constellations is always the path of the sun. Then, of course, when the sun is swallowed up by Eve, who kisses the sun, or betrays the sun, of course, you see. And that's why when you look at the glyph of Libra, you will see the sun setting. Because that's what it's doing every evening. And then Scorpion is the next sign. Scorpion is the fixed water sign. It's feminine, magnetic. And then Sagittarius from 10 o'clock to midnight. And there is the centaur shooting at midnight with its arrow. And then Capricorn starts at midnight. And Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Saturn is Satan. This is why he is the Lord of the darkness. And then, of course, Aquarius rules from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m., also ruled by Saturn. So you see that the darkest part of the evening is ruled by Satan, who is the opposite. Aquarius is opposite Leo, which rules from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. And Leo is the rulership of the sun. And, of course, that's the brightest, warmest part of the day. And so these are undeniably the fixed houses of the sun in its journey. And the sun will always do this every day, regardless of whether it's winter or summer, regardless of whether it's spring or autumn. This is the fixed symbolical position of the signs daily. So it's very handy to remember that right ascension of meridian begins daily at 6 a.m. and on March the 21st yearly. And with that in mind, you can always understand astrology. And also, if you overlay the human body over the same circle, you start with the top of your head in Aries at 6 a.m. where Aries is, and Aries is the top of the head and Pisces is the feet. And so if you wrap a human being around that circle where the feet are touching the back of the head, the two Pisces feet are touching the Arian head, and we all have Aries in the head, regardless of whether you're an Aquarian or a Virgoan or a Geminian. Aries is in your head. It's in the cerebrum or the cerebram. And just a quick note on that: Ram is also lamb. You see, so the Lamb of God is the ram, Aries, because it's always. See, in Revelation when it says, "And the Lamb of God stands upon Mount Zion with its 144,000." Well, 144,000 happens to be the number of all the petals of the chakras, the 7 chakras that are in the body. So the Lamb, Aries, the cerebram, is always standing on top of Mount Zion with the 144,000. So it's all astrological.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to say that I was going to be teasing with Cindy earlier. She's my sister and one of our Truth Connections team members, and I like to give her a little shout out now because she's the one that edited all the Led Zeppelin songs down for the intro and for our show tonight that we played during certain breaks and turned them into MP3s for Dave, and so I want to thank her for that. And also, we are going to, if it's okay with you, Santos, we can stay for another about 45 minutes or so and take some more callers, but I think it'd be good to have a little break right now. What do you think? I think a little break is good, and then we can get back to some callers maybe. We are back with Santos Bonacci for Hour 3, and we're very happy that you're all here this evening. Santos, someone asked in the chat room earlier about what your role here is supposed to be for this transition. And in my opinion, you're doing what your role is right now in this transition. And from knowing you personally, I know that you don't think you're any better than anybody else. And we're all here to teach each other. So what do you think everyone else's role is going to be for this alignment and a new way of thinking for consciousness?
Yeah, well, we need to find the path of self-determination, thinking for oneself, and knowing who we are, that we are so divine and special, and we are all one. And not exalting ourselves over each other as superior, as exclusivists. The churches do that. But just acknowledging that we are all of the one. And we will achieve this. We will find this this unity. But I will say to all the listeners, because there's obviously a lot of confusion in this world, and I've gone through the confusion. Imagine, being a Jehovah's Witness for 22 years, and I was zealous. Let me tell you, I was zealous. When I knocked on those doors, I didn't care who came out, big 6-foot men or, angry people with a gun. I just knocked on those doors because I was going to save them to Jehovah. But I persisted and endured, and eventually I found what I was good for. And I know what my forte and my calling is. And my calling is, I'm a researcher. I've never professed to be anything else. I've never said, hey, I know all this stuff, I'm a guru, follow me. If you're going to follow me, I will call you a dunce. Because we need to follow the divine, still, divine God, creator, that we have in our breasts. That's the only thing we need to follow. And my calling is to gather my research, put it together properly, and share it. I interviewed John Anthony West a couple of weeks ago, the great Egyptologist, a couple of weeks ago on American Freedom Radio, and I was watching one of his videos, and in there he said that when you go to the shop and you see all those items on the shelf, those items are like data. Then when you select an item and you put it in your basket, that now is information. Then when you go to the cashier and you pay for it, that now is knowledge. Then you take that and you take it home and you assemble it to prepare it to eat. That is understanding. Then when you eat it and digest it, that is the wisdom. So there's 5 stages going from data to wisdom. Now, I get all this data and information and put it together with the knowledge that I have, because I paid attention when I was young. I had my telescopes and I learnt astronomy. I learnt how to play the guitar. I learnt how to speak several languages. I learnt theology. I'm self-taught. Everything. I've never had a teacher. I get my books and I learn.
I love that about you, and because you can learn anything if you want to badly enough.
Yeah, and so what I've done is I've turned that knowledge into understanding. So when people see my presentations, they understand. Finally, they say, "Oh, now I understand astronomy. Thank you, Santos. Oh, now I understand astrology. Thank you. Now I understand the Bible." So that's what I've done. Now, the next stage is for everyone to go off and turn that into wisdom. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be a wise man. So I'm growing my beard, trying to look wise. Hopefully that turns me into a wise man, you know. But wisdom is the ultimate. Wisdom corresponds to our top chakra, which is called Ketha. You see, or actually, no, it's not. We have 2 chakras below that, Chokmah and Binah. One is understanding and one is wisdom. And so understanding has a feminine sort of a connection to it, and wisdom has got a masculine connection to it. Now, these are just designations that really don't mean much at all, but we give them that because of the vibration that comes with them. But we must all go through, and when you Kabbalah, there's 10 Sephiroth, but there's one in the middle, the 11th pseudo-Sephiroth, which is called Da'at. And in Greek, that's called Gnosis. That's where we get the word to know. So if you know and you go through that pseudo-Sephiroth, then you will reach Binah, which is understanding. And then from understanding, you will go through wisdom. And from wisdom, you will return to the Empyrean, which is unconditioned consciousness, which is what we all are. And here we are having a conversation, remembering all of this.
That's right, we sure are. That's what we're all here to do. And it's important at this time to, go with the flow and trust the process as much as possible. Go with these feelings that we're going to be getting and try not to jump to conclusions about anything. The bad guys are going to go down. The bad guys are going to go down. Mark my words, they're going to go down. Right, Santos?
Yeah, absolutely. Or they're going to go up. But the difference is repentance. We all are repenting daily. I mean, how many times do you repent? I mean, think about it. You get cranky with your spouse and you abuse them. And then what do you have to do after that? You have to say sorry. Otherwise, guess what? You suffer.
Right.
Don't say sorry. Say sorry. Well, then you're not a man and you're not a woman. You're still in the animal stage. You're still vicious. And so repentance is happening daily, just like the cycles of astrology, you see. The sun is going around 12 signs daily and yearly. And so daily we are repenting and uplifting our souls, raising the Christ within. This is happening daily. fractally every minute, every second. We're always looking for ways of improving, of evolving. And so the guys that are doing the dark things, well, they've just been riding the gravy train, and they've had it good for a long time because the Piscean age was supporting their works of darkness, the dark age. But see, now when you enter a dark room and north corner and it's going, so
yeah, we have a caller holding. We're hearing a lot of interference. I'm sorry, Santos. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, so if you enter a dark room and you hear a noise emanating from the corner, that can put fear into you. But all you do is you just turn to the right, turn a switch on, and shed some light on the subject, and you discover that it's just this little fan that's making a lot of noise, you know. And then you can say, you can get on with life because you realise where that scary noise is coming from. You see, you've shed light on the subject. So Aquarius is going to shed light on George Bush's family now, for instance. Let's pick on him because we know they've been up to. So what are they going to do? Turn around and go, sorry, you know, we got caught up with Skull and Bones, and we did this, and Prescott Bush was selling oil and scrap metal to the Japanese in 1945. We'll admit that. Yes, all right, we'll admit that we killed John Lennon through the CIA and JFK, and we did the towers. All right, we're sorry. Can you forgive us? Well, let's see how forgiving we are when that happens.
I can tell you what my lower vibrations want to do to the Bush family. I can say that much, and I say, check yourself, Kathy. That's what we're here to do. We're here to learn these lessons and to raise our vibration and vibrate as high as we possibly can, you know, and change the direction of the planet, because this galactic alignment is important for us to do just that, so we can turn things in our favor. Right, Santos?
We can, and you know what? We will. Right now, we're probably, you know, resonating a lot with our lower nature and thinking, oh, we'd love to have them in jail and we'd love to justice and everything like that. Justice will come because justice is part of light, and everything is produced by light. Light will spread itself over all darkness because evil and darkness is just undeveloped good. That's all it is. It's a concept that we have formulated because we can explain duality that way. We can explain dimension that way. You see, from one undivided light, which is the Creator, he has one desire, and that is to separate. And so he produces what we call the Son of God, the only begotten, the Word of God, which is electricity. Electricity has two natures, positive and negative. We call negative magnetism. It's not really, it's just negative electricity. It's just that from the stillness to divide itself into two spirals that go out from the stillness, and those two spirals go out in many, many, many fractals to produce all the motion that you see. All of that one day will be recollected in the in-breath of Brahma and return to the source only to start again. Because that's what Brahma is doing, the great Brahma. Breathing out, breathing in. And we're a part of the dance. It's a dualistic dance. And so let's enjoy the dance. But remember that we are all returning to the stillness. And evil is undeveloped good. And we can only, as creators, help it to raise its vibration and bring it to the light too. We can help people like Hillary Clinton and Gordon Brown and all these creeps going around, you know, starting corporate wars in Libya and Syria just for their, you know, buddies, shareholders of the military-industrial complex, you know. We can shed light on that, you know, and what we'll find is all of those hundreds of thousands of Americans that are working in every state in the military-industrial complex, they'll get a conscience and they'll say, hey, I don't think I like working in this place where I'm making hand grenades and, you know, and what are those bombs called where, you know, they put them underground and children walk over them and blow them half to bits. And those mines. Yeah, I don't think I like. I think I might just change my job, and that will happen. And then they'll have to shut doors, and the churchgoers will realise that the true theology is science. It's not hocus pocus. And then the Jehovah's Witnesses will have to shut their mind-controlling, Rockefeller-funded doors, and they will be liberated. And then we won't have sheeple anymore. We will have
I like what
lambs
Max
of
Egan
God.
says. Go ahead, Santos. Have lands of what?
Go ahead. So we won't have sheeple anymore. We will have lambs of God on the earth.
Absolutely. I like what Max Egan says. He says that he doesn't want them to be jailed or prosecuted. He just wants them to return home. Basically to return to love and to their families, where they should rightfully be. You know, living life the way they should rightfully be living it. We do have a caller holding. Area code 774. You are live with the show. Do you have a question for Santos?
Yes, hi. Merry, great year, everyone. Awesome. I had a question about the New Age deception. I was wondering, there's like some contradictory information out there, and just don't feel comfortable with some teachers of this subject. Like there's like a rigorous kind of way to do certain things. Like if you're familiar with Drenval Melchizedek's work, the Flower Life books are just amazing, but there's just something about it that just doesn't feel right. I'm just wondering if Santos had anything to contribute to that. The other contradictory information is he mentions how the body starts at the cerebrum, and there's this contradictory information that the heart organ is actually the first one, and it forms a toroidal field, and everything else fills in from there. The astrology aspect of it, the astrotheology aspect of it, definitely seems, like it just feels more, like that's the way it is. So I was just wondering if we can touch base on that at all.
Look, I've read all of Drumvala's books, and he's got some great science in there. But look, he's dealing with his portion of the whole jigsaw puzzle that he knows, and he's doing a good job in his section. But what I find with a lot of these great teachers, a lot of them, because they have not paid much attention to astrology, which is the mother of all the sciences, they get to miss out on understanding the whole picture. If you want to understand all things, you must be a student of astrology, and I would suggest to begin with the fundamentals. I teach the fundamentals in all of my 21 presentations that are free on YouTube. The fundamentals are there. It's easy. It's based on nature, and nature reveals the secrets of astrology. Once you know astrology, then you can begin to teach everything syncretically, comprehensively, holistically, but syncretically rather than dividing. And so there's some great teachers out there. My goodness, I've learned so much from Jordan Maxwell, Michael Zarian, Michael Cremo. Let me go through a list of some of the great teachers out there. For some reason I've just gone blank, but Anthony West, Jay Widener, these are guys that I've had on my shows too and interviewed, and I've been so blessed to have them. Now a lot of these guys, they know about astrology, probably just the basics, but if you develop your astrology and understand the stars, for everything from the stars, everything is from the light. So if you get into guys like Walter Russell, you will then understand the science of light, and then you will be able to comprehensively, explain all things. You'll have a great, not that you'll know all things, but you will have enough knowledge of all things, which is better than just being an expert on two things. And that's how the system educates us. You see, the universities are churning people out that are, they've got all their degrees in civil engineering, but they wouldn't know anything about music, theology, astrology, astronomy, nothing, and they don't care to, as long as they've got their degrees and they can get a job. Well, this is Rome's old system, you see, and it's about to fall. And so, these people will probably, have to suffer initially because they're going to have to expand their horizons and learn a lot of things. So don't be afraid to grapple with a lot of subjects. Even if you start learning an instrument, you don't have to be thorough. You just grab a guitar and strum and sing, and then put that down, and then perhaps do a little bit of astronomy. Hop on the internet and open up an astrological site and read up about your star sign, for instance. You might be Taurine. Find out what that means, and then you will get to know what it means, and you'll build up your knowledge and your fundamental knowledge, and then build on top of that. And that's what I've done. That's all I've done, and that's all I'm teaching and promoting, because it is the way. It is the way. All things are one, and you can learn all things as one. See,
yeah, absolutely. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Santos.
You're very welcome. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. You too. Okay, Santos, what would you like to touch base on now? I don't think there's another caller holding. We have about 15 minutes left. What do you think you would like to tell everyone about the changes or whatever topic you'd like to talk about? Well, please mention your website again too, and your YouTube channel.
YouTube handle is Mr. Astrotheology, one word, Mr. Astrotheology, and website is universaltruthschool.com, and also have the schooloftheholyscience.org, where we have various teachers. We've got Bill Donahue, who teaches astrotheology and has been for the last 40 years in New Jersey, and he is the leading astrotheologer in the world, along with Jordan Maxwell and the likes of which I've mentioned. And we also have Marty Leeds, who has written a beautiful book about pi, and you can understand this transcendental number. It's an exquisite. He's got 2 books. And he's got great video presentations on YouTube, Marty Leeds. We have Johan Oldenkamp, who is teaching the holy science like myself, only he spells it with a WH. And we're going to have 3 natural science teachers of the Russellian school join us, and they would be Nat Presti, Robert Otey, and Jason Verbelli, very, very soon. We've also got another guy who's joined us, and I'm embarrassed because I forget his name. I hope he forgives me, but another young man, Joel, his name is, Joel, and he teaches how to find the stillness and, healing techniques. He's teaching about healing and meditating, and no particular school, but just general wisdom. And so we have a school, and webinars we're going to be having from that school, whereby we will be teaching regularly, and there will be a schedule where you can just join the webinar. You can have an hour of Marty Leeds, you can have an hour of myself or Bill, and so it's going to be a school which will deal with all of the holy sciences. There will be astrologers there. Bill Schreiber will also be joining us. He's the one that I use his astrological books when I do my teachings, my presentations. He has books which show the body types of each sign, so you can see what an Aryan typically looks like. And he has that beautiful, and I've never seen a book like it, ever. And he's going to join us too. So we're going to have the best school on the planet for knowledge, understanding, and wisdom that you can ever get.
That's great. I mean, your YouTube channel alone is some of the best educational tools on the web, as far as I'm concerned. And you give so freely of yourself from your heart and from the right place. And that's just what I love about you, Santos. You're a kind soul who loves everyone and wants everyone to rise the vibration as a whole, and you don't think highly of yourself like you're more than someone else. You're just here. You recognize we're all one tribe, we're all one people and one consciousness, and we need to work together. And it's really great that you've come to the planet at this time. I think you're a gift. I really do.
Well, thank you, and it's a reflection of who you are and all the listeners, and basically I'm just remembering these things that we all forgot just 3 or 4 seconds before you, and that's why I'm out there sharing it with you, because when you're watching my presentations, you're not learning, you're remembering it yourself. That's why people write to me and say, you know how many aha moments I got through your last presentation, Santos? And why are they saying aha? It's because it's like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that rings true. I remember that. And so when we remember first, we have the obligation to share it so that our brothers can remember it. And we will remember. All the members will be put together of this big body of knowledge that we have.
Absolutely. I just asked some of the guys on the Wolf Spirit Radio, some of the other hosts that are on the show, if they want to call in. We have a few more minutes if you want to come in and ask a question to Santos and anybody who's a host at Wolf Spirit Radio. I see some of the guys in the chat room. Thank you. Say they're enjoying the show. Okay, we'll see if anybody comes on at the last minute. So what would you like to leave everyone with, Santos? About 10 minutes left. What do you think? Well, someone asked earlier what we could expect from this planetary alignment. I know you touched a little bit on it, but could you elaborate a little bit more, perhaps, before you go?
Yeah, we can expect that if we make hay while the sun is shining, and we take advantage of this luminosity which is pouring down through our crown chakras. I mean, just look outside and have a look. You know, get a feel of the changes that are coming upon us. My God, every day there's shifting happening. We don't have to pay too much attention to any one given shift. The shifts have been taking place. Last week I felt a biggie, and last month I felt a big one. And what it's doing is it's elevating us. So we should be positioned to receive the maximum benefit of all this. And we should take advantage of it now. Make hay while the sun's shining. And it's not time to be distracted. Materialism is over. That's the Armageddon that has happened. You know, the church is preaching Armageddon. Armageddon will come, Armageddon. Yeah, sure it will. For them. Because they are the materialists that want materialism to, because they believe in a materialistic God. And let me share with you what Walter Russell says about this. Because before we were talking about the difference between knowing and opinions, and there's a big difference. And Walter Russell talks about empirical knowledge and how dangerous it is. He says, man's present civilization is erected upon the foundation of empirical knowledge obtained through his senses. What is empirical knowledge? The definition in the dictionary is conclusions founded upon experiment and observation alone. In other words, the so-called knowledge upon which man relies is founded upon the evidence of senses, or more simply, upon the non-existent waves of motion of the non-existent substance. The fact is the answer as to why mankind has as yet physically, practically, no knowledge. So what he's saying there is that scientists are observing vibrations, not the stillness. So they don't know the unnamed causal God of stillness. They only know the demiurge, the second God, the created God, who is also a creator, which is the vibration, which senses can pick up. So we can We can touch things. My desk is hard. My head is hard. I can see my screen. I can hear you. How do I hear you? It's strange. I mean, I've got head cuffs on, and I can hear you, and you're on the other side of the planet. And you talk, and I hear you. It's a vibration. So all of these vibrations are not real. Reality is beyond them in the stillness. And see, scientists, since they don't acknowledge a creator, they've just shifted him conveniently out of the way and given us theories about this and, Big Bang theory and theory here and theory there. Based on what they've proven in the laboratory with their senses, they will never have knowledge, like the great Walter Russell said, because they do not acknowledge the stillness that causes all things, from which all things come forth, like a fountain. And if you don't acknowledge that, how can you know? Because that is the fountain of knowing. Where knowing is being, is truth, is power, is balance, is love. All those things exist in the one causal stillness of light, which is the Creator. And it doesn't exist in the illusion. We can find the semblance of it. You see, we are simulating that every day. We are simulating that true love which really exists as we go around imitating it. But to know it is to acknowledge the stillness. And you can only do that when you reach the higher mind. And you reach the higher mind when you unshackle yourself from the conditions of the churches and the governments and this and that are demanding your attention. And what do, these scientists who think they know everything and refuse to acknowledge the Creator, is that they are running away from their own divinities, and they are the ones that are persecuting animals in their laboratories, making toxic substances to put in our children's vaccination so that they can be harmed, raping the earth, fracking, all of this harmful technology. We've got smartphones that give you brain cancer. Woohoo! Brilliant. Great stuff. And yet we don't have to. We can have phones. We can talk through phones that do not harm us. And yet they choose harmful technologies because they're cheaper, they're cuts, and this is all based on economy and growth and money and advancement in a materialistic way. And they're all buying into it. They've all been sold the illusion. The whole show that you see will disappear, and if you buy into it, you will suffer. And so we have to withdraw from this and go into the still, meditate more, go within, find the stillness, shut everything up, even your thinking. Shut it all up and know that you are this something eternal that dwells inside of you, and that alone exists.
Be silent and go within. Well said, Santos. We have time for another question. Dale's on the line now. Dale, would you like to ask Santos a question?
Hi, Santos. More of a comment. I first heard about you, I'd say about 2 years ago, and to be quite honest, I thought you were raving mad, and I didn't give it second thought. However, I had my own personal awakening back in '09. It's been a progressive pilgrimage into finding my knowing, because the things just weren't adding up when I had my light switch turned on, and I started seeing the world for what it was, and things started being put in front of my face that I had to question and kind of weigh on my soul. And I've always had a good gut instinct about things, and I just allowed my gut to follow me, and that gut instinct has turned into more of a trusting of an aspect of myself that I've discovered. And being a child of the 70s, being raised on Ritalin and other drugs, and having shed all of that cloud, I've come out of that darkness and come to realize that you're right on par. I've been sharing today, started this morning, and I've been saying this for probably 6 months, that it really is something to the stars, and you have really eloquently been bringing the truth out. And just my own personal life of shedding the ego layer, the onion layers of the ego has brought me to the point where I've gone from a kid of being, having ADD now and being angry all my life to really finding that stillness and calmness within me. And I got to tell you, it's a much happier place to be. And this energy is, this energy that's coming, that's here, that will start unfolding is, it's playing out in me, and I'm just standing in my neutrality of it all and just allow it to flow in and out and through and do what it's here to do. I'm here to shine and bring others into that understanding if they're open to it. But there's so much of this matrix that has solidified people's their beliefs, and I've pretty much shed all of my beliefs and remained open to truth. So I want to thank you for that, or for being a part of that. And that's about it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dale. Thank you very much for calling in. That was a nice addition. Okay.
Yeah. Very satisfying.
Santos.
It's very satisfying. Comments like that, Catherine. I've received a few emails recently from people who have shared similar sentiments, and they were from church backgrounds. And I receive daily people, Jehovah's Witnesses, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, telling me that I've helped them to sort out all the guilt and all the doubts that they've ever had, and now that they understand the true theology and how it works. And that's very satisfying to see people that really have been indoctrinated, because churchgoers get an extra dose of this mind control. Not only do they cop it from governments and from the education system and from the secular world, but they even go to church on top of it to get more.
Oh, I know. I was raised a Methodist in the church up until my early 20s, and I said, this just isn't adding up. Even back then I knew. So, yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah. And any of the listeners that need resources or information, just flick us over an email at my Universal Truth School website. And if you need information about cell salts and what will help your health, and I mean, I don't give advice, but I know where the best resources are. I've got the best sites for astrology. If you're looking for a good astrological site, a good site to do your birth chart, I can flick that information over. Stuff about health and all the best teachers of health out there. Feel free to just flick over an email, and I'll be able to help with resources. And because it's time now to find the best information out there, turn it into knowledge, turn it into understanding, and then we will be the wise ones that will benefit. Absolutely. And that's a great place to end it, I think. Thank you so much for coming on the show at the last minute with me, Santos. I really appreciate it. You're my brother, and I love you, and I hope you and your family have a great holiday. Likewise. Thank you very much. Okay, I know Dave has another show coming on right after this. The marathon will continue. We have a lot more stuff coming your way. And I would just like to say, yes, this is our show that ended right now, but please continue to come back. There's a lot of new chat members in the chat room. Please continue to come back to Wolf Spirit Radio. They have a lot of great hosts here and cover a lot of interesting and uplifting and amazing subject matter. So please do come back to Wolf Spirit Radio. They have shows that go just about all day long. And I would like to ask all of you, if you would like to sign up for Truth Connections YouTube channel, you'll get the links for our new shows as soon as we upload them. And I believe Tamara will also, my partner, will also upload this show from today as soon as she has time to get that taken care of, because she does a great job with the editing. And please feel free to join our Facebook page called Truth Connections.
we'd like to have you there. We don't like to mass add people. We like people to come there on their own free will because it makes for better conversation. At this time, on behalf of myself and Tamara, my partner at Truth Connections Radio, and the entire Truth Connections crew and team, I'd just like to say vibe high and radiate love, everyone. Have a happy and blessed holiday, and be good to each other. Until next time, peace and love on earth.